Well, good morning to you, good afternoon, good evening. It's great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Shukran, assalamu alaikum to you in Somaliland, in the United States, all over the world. We've already had viewers commenting that they are joining in, watching the show from across the earth in 205 countries and territories. I'm Marty Mangello, and it's my great pleasure to introduce Anab Ali. She is a new and dear friend to me. So, Anab, I'm pleased to bring you on. How are you feeling today in Virginia and the Washington, D.C. area?
Good morning, Marty. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I think I'm having a little echo. And I'm here. I'm ready.
Well, thank you. And we're tentatively calling this the Somaliland Today show. So would you mind just telling us? I mean, I would say a month ago, I didn't even know, honestly, within the truth, where Somaliland was. And I thought it was Somalia, which was one of the big things we want to stop doing. And so I had an open mind and an open heart. And would you mind telling us a little bit about Somaliland?
Well, today we have many guests and officials we have prepared for you to tell us a lot about Somaliland. For me, just to give you an overall quick introduction, Somaliland is located in East Africa, Horn of Africa, and it is one of the beautiful secrets of East Africa, unknown secret. So today we're going to let the secret out. We're going to tell you all about it.
That sounds great to let the secret out, I tell you. And we have also one of our excellent guests, Robert Marrow, is with us today. Bob, how are things there in the DC metro area?
Well, it's the still the beginning of February. The temperature is supposed to go up into the mid to high 60s today. So any Friday that you've got spring-like weather in the middle of February is always a good day. So and it's a great way to start out introducing a country that has equal promise and provides equal opportunity for so many American companies, so many other Western companies, and is a petite gem that is just waiting to be discovered. And when it does, it's going to just take off like a rocket.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also another guest we have today, Mr. Abdul Jama. So, Abdul, how are you today?
You're on mute.
Yeah, you're still muted there.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Mari. Thank you, Anab. Thank you, Bob. I'm doing well, sir. Great to have be a part of the show. I'm doing great.
Well, fantastic. I'd like to also bring on Abdi Ali. Abdi, can you hear us in Somaliland?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I'm here. In Djibouti, well, I can see you all.
Okay, excellent. And I know that the connection sometimes across the transoceanic cable is not so strong. So we do have a lot of members today from the Somaliland Strategic Advisory Group, and the spokesman for that group is actually with us. And so that's actually Mr. Abdul Jama. Abdul, would you be able to give us an overview of the Somaliland Strategic Advisory Group and tell us a little bit about it?
Absolutely. So, Somaliland Strategic Group is a group that existing in the United States, based on Washington, Virginia, and Maryland area, and we have a number of chapters across the United States. And our goal currently is to build the bridge between the United States and Somaliland. And we've been successfully for the last at least a year and a half and so. We have a number of projects between Somaliland and the United States. We're trying to build that bridge. That's our ultimate goal. We have to, our goal is that to educate a lot of the U.S. government policymakers and how Somaliland is very important to the rest of the Africa, and especially in East Africa, in terms of security, in terms of the protecting the American interest in the region. So Somaliland strategic groups are a very important group. Our goal is that to build a bridge.
Thank you so much. And Anab, any comment on your goals and the things that you guys aspire to do? I know I've been learning a lot as this goes along, and every day I learn more. I ask how to pronounce certain words. I learned about 3 weeks ago about the capital of Somaliland, Hargeisa, and how to pronounce that. And I had known a little bit in my mind about Berbera, but of course, this is a magnificent port city that can grow up and become even larger. Would you like to talk a little bit about some of the things that I've been learning?
Certainly, even though I have people who have more knowledge and will explain to us even further, I have been in Berbera myself. I go to the country often, but I was there last summer, had spent some time and really love it. Like to go that more often if I can. But Somaliland, as I told you in the beginning, is the best secret kept in a Horn of Africa. A lot of times people mistakenly call Somaliland Somalia. Well, what I like to tell you, and just to let the American public and everybody else know, is that Somaliland has reclaimed its independence from Somalia 1991. So it has been sort of de facto nation since then, very much independent themselves. It might not have an international recognition, but they have recognized themselves. When they were de-associating with Somalia, which, well, let me go back. 1960, June 26, 1960, Somaliland gained independence from the British protectorate, and 5 days later, at the time, you can understand how they were hyped and happy to be one Somalia, and they have taken their independence to their brethren in the south of Somali Republic, known at the time the Somali Italia, and they have become a one nation, Republic of Somalia. And then, if I'm making a mistake, I will ask Abdul Rashid and Abdul to correct me. But from the history that I know, that once they became one nation, and 20 years or so, or 20 some years or so, things was not going very well. Somaliland, there have been a vicious war. In fact, dictator Siad Barre created a war, and it has become, a very bad civil war in the 80s and late 80s. In 1991, the Somaliland had enough, and they said enough is enough, and they have reclaimed their independence. They have left their brethren, Somalia, and left the flag for them and left the name and everything. And they said, you know what? We are going to take back our independence that we brought to you. And so what I know is ever since 1991, Somaliland have built, unlike any other African nation, democracy and rule of law. They have been passing, and what do you call it, like without
I'm
war
gonna interrupt
and
you,
without
Arab.
yes.
Dr. K, the ministry
Go
just
ahead,
joined
Abdul.
us. I would definitely introduce you to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Somaliland. So please join. Please let him
Oh,
introduction.
okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Please, let's introduce Dr. Esther Kaid. Mr. Adam.
let me, and we will continue the history later on. But right now, it's my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Kaid, Foreign Minister, Dr. Isa Kaid. He will tell us more about himself. Is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperations, and he's joining us from the capital of Hargeisa. Dr. Kaid, welcome.
Well, thank you, everyone. Hello from Hargeisa, the capital of Somaliland. Located, of course, as Anab has clearly explained, in the Horn of Africa, in a very area. On the Horn of Africa, Somaliland has reclaimed, as Anab has said, it reclaimed its independence from the Somalia in 1991. Since then, Somaliland had its own border, which is a former British country. And it has a defined border, has 4.7 million population of 4.7 million. It has its own currency. It has its own military and police force and law enforcement court system. It has its own parliament. It has everything that has that could distinguish or define a country. Somaliland is still not recognized as a country, but nevertheless, we never stopped engaged with foreign countries. And as of today, we have 7 representation from different countries across the world who have been attracted because of our stability, of our democracy, of our welcoming, and most importantly, of the untapped virgin natural resource that Somaliland has, including the port of Berbera, including gas, petrol, and minerals that are untapped. We've attracted companies, Ganel, which is a British and Turkish company, that are exploring. We also have CPC, which is a Taiwanese company, which is also starting very soon to drill for gas. All this is actually saying that Somaliland is a de facto country and has was reported the African Union in 2005 as being a country that has a legitimate legal case to be recognized as independent country from Somalia. Somaliland has had consecutive 5 presidents and consecutive elections, both last one in May, and it was an election in May 21. It was an election that was both free and fair. We're the only first country in Africa in biometrics using the iris, and we have done back-to-back parliamentarian and also a local government election. Somaliland is a stable, free country where people are welcoming, and it is located in East Africa. It's in a very huge area in a horn of Africa. It has 8,500 kilometers of coast, 850 kilometers of coast. And in that coast, we're right off the Strait of Bab el Mandeb, where you can see that there's a very stretched to get across the world. And welcomes people who are interested in investing. Tourism is a good thing. Somaliland has been fighting against terrorism and foreigner militia. Somaliland has been in the center of was kind of the buffer zone for most African countries to protect them against the illegal fishing, illegal wildlife trafficking or human trafficking. Somaliland has decided to continue that path and continue to welcome people to invest, which is the most important thing. As you know, Somaliland has 4.7 million people, or 70%, 0% are under the age of 40. Equal opportunity, and it's a country that has all this resource that I've talked about, and we welcome anybody, any organization, any company who would like to invest to come to visit us, and open arms. With open arms, we're welcoming everybody. And thanks for inviting me today to have at least a few words about Somaliland. I won't be able to talk all the good things that I have about Somaliland after coming back from this state where I lived for a while in Boston. And I've noticed that this is really there's an opportunity for everybody here to come and see what Somaliland has to offer. I thank you very much. Pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Kaid. We are very happy to have you. There might be a few questions if you can hang around. I know your schedule is very busy and demanding. If you can just hang on for a little bit, we would really appreciate if you have a little bit of time. At this time, Mari, I like to welcome Abdurrashid Rira. And Abdurrashid is the former chairman of the Electoral Commission. He has run and done wonderful elections. He will tell us more about that himself. He's joining us today from Djibouti, where he is visiting. Abdurrashid, welcome. And you are muted, Abdurrashid. If you can unmute your phone and then join us, please. And while Abdurrashid is working on his phone, I also like to introduce Robert Marrow. We call him Bob. Bob Marrow is Bob Marrow is a long friend of Somaliland. And Abdi, are you ready? Abdurrashid, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning.
I will hold on to Bob. Abdurrashid, go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning and good evening to everybody. In the first place, I would like everybody to excuse me because I just have a flu and maybe my voice is not all right. But anyway, I welcome everybody and I appreciate this meeting to be part of it. And I would say thank you very much, everyone. Well, Somaliland is a democratic country in East Africa, as every one of you know. And Somaliland has 6 electoral regions. It has a 23 electoral district, 3,000 polling stations, 2.5 million registered voters, and of course, as everyone knows, National Electoral Commission of Somaliland conduct 4 presidential election, peaceful power transfer, and 3 local government elections, 2 parliamentary elections, and of course all those elections were free and fair, peaceful power transfer, and within, of course, Somaliland is from the second term, it's from 91. So in that period, we conduct all those elections with free and fair, and we have a very good system, which is pneumatic technology. But fully, we register people with taking their eyes, and from next election also have checking the same thing. So it's completely from A to Z is technology, and it's fair, and there cannot be any trade or anything in the election. So on the side of democratic, Somalia is the only democratic country in here, although we not recognized by any international. And also, I want to say we because also while Somalilanders are very sad of what's happening in Las Ahmed. Of course, it's not in Somaliland. There's many other coming in and taking opportunity to find this out, especially the in Somalia, or they are heavy fighting in Somalia, so they are trying to get some other place to make a base to get the supplies and take that. So they try to they are coming. Eventually, they are coming in. I think this is what I can say now. That groups that fighting is different. They are different. They have different agenda. They are different background. So it's a bad luck, and we're trying to. Of course, the Minister of Foreign Affairs is there, and he knows more than I know. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Abdi. At this time, thank you so much for giving us that background information. At this time, I would like to you and everybody else to mute their phone. I'm going to introduce Bob Marrow. Before that, Robert Marrow, or Bob Marrow as we call him, is a long friend of Somaliland. He's a senior advisor of Somaliland Strategic Advisory Group here in Washington, DMV Metro. He's been working with us. He met many of the ministers when they came last year, March of last year. And Robert knows a lot about Somaliland history. This time, it's my pleasure to welcome Robert Marrow to the show.
Thanks, Anab, and welcome. Assalamu alaikum to everyone. I know we've got a limited amount of time, and it's unfortunate because we could spend hours and hours talking about all the wonderful things in Somaliland and why it makes it such a great potential destination for international business, especially from America. But let me start out by just saying, we've talked about Somaliland and Somalia and how they had to be, or they had joined in the Union back in 1961. It seemed like a great idea at the time. But, if you ask people now what they think of Somaliland, and they'll say, oh, yeah, Somalia, that was where Black Hawk Down was and the Somalian pirates and all of it. No, that's a different country entirely. It's true. Somaliland was part of Somalia for a number of years, but the situation in Somalia was so dire that it led the people in Somaliland to say, we're not going to go with this albatross around our necks. We're going to be an independent country. And they've succeeded at being that. As the minister said, there have been 5 presidential elections and changes of power, every one of them peaceful. It's always been a peaceful transition to a new government. Unlike, places where other places in Africa where somebody is democratically elected and then decides, I'm going to be president for life. No, you're president in Somaliland for a limited term, and then there'll be an election, and there will be either you'll be reelected or there will be a peaceful transition to a new administration. That's democracy. In fact, the Economist magazine and the Economist Economic Intelligence Unit several years ago put out a map of Africa showing the political situation in each of the African countries. And they designated by color, whether it's free, whether it's got a dictatorship, whether it's a hybrid. The only country in East Africa that was colored green as a full-fledged democracy was Somaliland. Now, I was the regional director for the U.S. Foreign Commercial Service for Africa, South Asia, and Middle East. I traveled extensively in the country. This was back in the late 1990s. At that time, Somaliland was still a very, very backwater country, but it has changed drastically. And I remember in Foreign Service, my first assignment was Malaysia, which at that time was still just beginning, just on the cusp of becoming a developed country. And I remember sending analyses back to Washington saying that Malaysia has the potential to become one of the leading, if not the leading, economy in Southeast Asia. I was not very popular in saying that because people were, no, there are other countries, Thailand and others, the Philippines, that have a much better economic opportunity for America. Well, my predictions turned out to be right. I'm not patting myself on the back, but it was just, being there, it gave you the opportunity to really get to know what was going on. I've learned enough about Somaliland to essentially put my chips down and say Somaliland can be one of the, if not the leading economy for all of East Africa, if not all of Central and Southern Africa as well. Look around. Everything, you've got so many economies that are really basket cases. Somaliland offers huge opportunities. We've heard already, it's got a great mineral base. There's just been discoveries of oil that could bring, both oil and natural gas. It's got a great agricultural section. It's got a huge potential for tourism. It's got miles, hundreds of miles of beaches and seafront areas. It's got a strategic location that it cannot be denied. In fact, in the latest U.S. defense bill for the coming years, Somaliland was singled out as someplace of what needs to be given a great deal of attention by the United States. It's right on the Horn of Africa. Look at any map, and you can see why the Brits went there. As we saw on the band below, the French were there in 1864, just as a coaling station. But the Brits came in early in the 20th century because of its strategic location right by the Horn of Africa. And it's become even more strategically important now because with China and others trying to develop closer relations with a lot of African countries, the United States needs to have good friends, good allies, and good locations in Africa, and especially locations that share a lot of our American democratic values, free elections, government for and by the people. All of this fits with Somaliland. And it's an economy that if American companies come in, it will be like Malaysia, which went from something of an economic backwater to one of the top leading economies in the entire world. Somaliland has that capability. It's small, so it's never going to rival the US or China or Russia, but it can be one of the top tier secondary economies in the entire world. I've seen a couple of things, some questions on here. Why is Somalia and Somaliland? Why is there so much confusion? Well, why is the sky blue? We have to explain to people why there is an independent Somaliland and why it's not part of the country that is a failed state and is riven by terrorism and just economic basket case in Somalia. I saw something on the Lester Holtz NBC News the other night where they were talking about 50% of the people in Somalia are facing famine this year. Somaliland, that's not the case. Somaliland is capable of sustaining itself. And this is why we are going to do more of programs like this so that we can get this country better known. The Economist wrote an article last spring talking about this is the country that most deserves independence, recognition, and support, and is not getting it, and questioning why are America and UK and every other democracy not going in there. It's all political. It would take 15 minutes to explain all the politics. I'm not going to do that, but it's just to say that there are political issues and diplomatic issues that have made it difficult. But the more we go down and the more we see failed states that surround Somaliland and a vibrant economic democracy in Somaliland, that's where the United States needs to be, both economically, politically, and socially. And we are going to do everything that we can to make sure that we educate people to see what is going on, why Somaliland should be given recognition, and get people in our government and our Congress to think positively about the country and to take the steps necessary to make this a shining success story worldwide. So all I can say is there's a whole lot more that we can talk about, but stay tuned for future programs, and we will do this, and we're going to explain a lot more about what's going on in Somaliland and why this country so wonderfully deserves all the support that we can give. So thank you all.
For that information. I think we really have showed the world today they cannot no longer afford not to be paying attention to Somaliland. And to this end, I like Robert Marrow, senior advisor of SAG, to give the world advice about Somaliland and how they should be dealt with, since you have checked all the boxes for democracy, for recognition. And I would like us to close by Bob Marrow's advice. And go ahead, Bob, please. You're muted, Bob. You're muted.
There's an entire list of industries that would benefit from having greater foreign direct investments. working in partnership or in conjunction with local industries where both can profit from those activities. You know, the list would be it would take an entire page to go through. But for example, it's got a vibrant agricultural section. It can be improved. It's got a mining section. It's got mineral reserves. It's got one of the world's biggest supply of rare earths. And for those who don't know what rare earths are, they are the key component ingredient for so much of whatever is high-tech industry. Moreover, the rare earths, until fairly recently, were monopolized in China. And China had a potential stranglehold over all things that are being used for not just high-tech electronics, but for high-tech systems, for weapon systems, for advanced technology, for artificial intelligence, etc. As I mentioned, it's got a huge coastline. It's got opportunities for increased tourism. It's got potential for becoming a regional center for healthcare and medical technology, working with foreign companies, whether from the United States, Europe, Asia, etc. It can have a vibrant banking sector, providing information. You know, so much of what can be done in Somaliland is, by contrast, you can rely on your partners in Somaliland. You can rely on these businesses to do the right thing. In so many other countries, unfortunately, it's not just us saying this. You can look at any of the various groups worldwide that measure corruption. And in so many of its neighbors, their scores on the corruption index are extremely high. The corruption index in Somaliland is virtually non-existent. All of these things are potential. What I would say is, please mark your calendars. We can do a program that would go into, in more depth, all of the different opportunities, because they are just literally too numerous to mention here. And it's impossible to kind of delve into that with any detail. But if we set up a program where we can do this, that can be very clear to not only the businesses, but to like government officials and others who want to help businesses expand internationally. And let me just say one thing about separating, you know, diplomatically, a province separating from a country is not an easy task. It can be very difficult, and it sets precedents that a lot of countries don't want to go down the path. Yet there have been any number of people, including the Assistant Secretary of State for Africa in the U.S. Department of State, who have called for it's time to really evaluate and to give Somaliland the recognition that it has deserved by its actions, not just in the United States, but in the UK and in other countries as well. It does not necessarily have to lead to problems. Back in the 1960s, Singapore was part of Malaysia. They separated because it was just not working out as a single country. And yet you look at the two of them, both are very successful economies, successful democracies, and successful friends and allies of the West and of the United States, and continue to be top of the table when it comes to looking at their achievements. Somaliland can easily join that club. It's the, you know, it's as some various people have said, it's the unknown gem, and it's something that it's a country that has merited all of this, and it would offer huge opportunities for any kind of foreign direct investment. As people in the United States, we would like to see American companies take maximum advantage, but any country from that has a vibrant economy, and I'm not talking about China, but I'm talking about countries in the West and in democracies, they can find huge opportunities in this. So this is something that we can work with. We can work with the US government, we can work with the Congress, we can work with other allies to make sure that this message is getting out, because we're missing a huge opportunity. And you know, if we don't take advantage of this opportunity, not only are we letting down a potential ally, but we are letting down our own companies and not giving them access to places where they can really, really do well. and make a success for everybody. So, I would say stay tuned for future events. We want to continue to do this. We are obviously, as you can see, we are very high on Somaliland. We think that it's a country that, as Marty said at the very outset, very few people have heard of, but so many people should know about and should be looking at the various advantages and opportunities that go on there. So we will look forward to seeing you all at future events where we can really explore some of these things. In the meantime, if you do have questions, even if it's not occurring to you right now, feel free to get back in touch with us, and we can try to work with you and help you understand what those opportunities might be and how they can positively impact your business operations, your plans for the future, and help all of us get a better grip and handle on what's the situation there, but at the same time, be able to adapt and to take advantage of all of these excellent opportunities. So, Anab and Marty, back to you.